Welcome back to the channel. Many of you probably assumed I was going to make Doc read Bloodline, Daughter of Blade #1 from Deity Lore, and I didn't want to be cruel or unusual with Doc, so I decided let's go check out Dark Web. I assume it's not going to be very good, and I was taken aback by this issue, Doc. I am not very happy with this comic book. We might not even review it here because I got shit to say, not only about Dark Web, but about Zeb Wells and Marvel Comics.
Oh, well, I'm curious to hear what you got to say about that, because this comic was very not good.
I don't understand why this comic book even exists, Doc. It's not as good as Inferno. It's Inferno light. It doesn't elevate Spider-Man. It doesn't elevate the X-Men. It doesn't elevate Chasm. It doesn't elevate Maddie Pryor. It does nothing of substance until the end. There is a mailbox, I believe, that's possessed. That is now the embassy to Limbo in New York City. That is the only thing of significance that happens in this entire event. You're supposed to feel something when you read a comic book event, Doc. You can be sad, excited, invigorated. You should have a feeling about something about the comic book when you're done with it. And I just feel bad after reading this. And I don't feel bad for myself or you. You know, we kind of sign up for this, but I feel terrible for like Stan Lee. I feel bad for Jack Kirby. I feel bad for Roy Thomas, for John Byrne, for Walt Simonson, anyone who ever worked for Marvel Comics and gave a flying fuck about what they were doing. This was the most phoned in bullshit event I've ever seen in my life. There was a time, and I think Stan Lee knew this and Jack Kirby and all those guys knew, that when a kid saw a comic book, you know, on the spinner rack, they'd grab their mom's coat and say, I know what I want to spend my allowance on. And those kids would work all day, all week long, just for the opportunity to read that comic book. And they put their heart and souls into those stories. They never phoned in anything. And Stan Lee had a lot of fucking hats, especially about a decade into what we know as Marvel Comics today. He was writing a lot before, but then he was the EIC. He was the head, he was the face of the company and everything. And he still gave a damn on every single comic book that he wrote. And the fact that they would just go out of their way. I mean, Zeb Wells isn't a bad writer, but this is one of the most phoned in experiences I've ever seen. I could tell every single page he could not give a fuck about what he was doing. He did not care at all.
No, he created this event to flesh out, I guess, where he was going to go with Chasm. But look, no one in this comic, in any of these issues, had a single semblance of a motivation that us as the readers would give a flying crap about. In the original Inferno, Chris Claremont spent about a year building Madeline's conflict and then her betrayal of the team and her descent into darkness, and then her motivation for invading Earth, of trying to get her baby back. This is the most surface level trying to establish a motivation for anyone involved in this comic book at all. No one there had any sort of give a shit about making me feel anything in reading this comic. It was paint by fucking numbers the entire time to just go from plot point to plot point to plot point so they could create some stupid goddamn embassy for Limbo at the end. This had absolutely no heart, no soul, no give a shit. Whichever Kubert it was, he was completely phoning it in on 2/3 of this. It looked like he might have done a little bit of layouts for about the second half of the comic. They brought in somebody else to finish the pencils and probably ink it, or ink over his very, very loose layouts. And then they just said, fuck it, ship it.
This isn't Bloodline, Daughter of Blade, or some crappy comic book no one, including Marvel Comics, gives an entire flying fuck about. This is the X-Men. This is Spider-Man teaming up for a big event book. These characters are certainly the history of Marvel Comics, but these characters are also the future of Marvel Comics. These characters are the future of American comic books, and to see them handled like this, with just no care whatsoever, it's just beyond frustrating.
They didn't take a single bit of the story seriously. All they wanted to do was get to the end and be done with it so they can move on to whatever else is next. This is two of the biggest franchises. You have the X-Men, you have Spider-Man. It also shits all over whatever Donny Cates did for that 3 years on Venom in building that character and that title into a solid B, if not A-list Marvel marquee title. That was a book that never historically sold, and he made it one of their premier titles. So they take all three of these major players, these three big franchises, one that's as old as the company, one that's been there for 40 years, and one that is a newbie to being in that tier. And they stick them all in an event, and then they phone it the fuck in.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And we're not the only ones feeling this. There are a couple of comments on Comic Book Roundup from actual readers. These aren't actual reviewers. These are readers putting in their comments. This is what The Spider Boy said. I mean, unpopular opinion, but I find this event to be okay and mediocre at best. Besides the chasm thing, the art was all right. The tone was really weird and comedic for some reason. The action was fine. The dialogue was hammy. And the way the event resolved was kind of disappointing. I get that the heroes gang up, but I expected better fight choreography. Overall, this event was not bad, but it was very disappointing and weird, probably going to drop Spider-Man after this event or after the mystery box. To be honest, I just realized Spider-Man really didn't play a big role in the event and was just there to be a punching bag. I get how Peter Parker ties into Chasm wanting his memory, but I expected more from this. Well, there's somebody that felt something. He wanted to say it was okay. You know, he goes out of his way to say this wasn't terrible, but it also made him want to quit reading Spider-Man. That's not the way to do business.
No, it really is not. He was right about every single thing. The dialogue was hammy. It didn't take itself seriously. It made fun of a lot of the tropes and things that were done in the original Inferno. And the ending is the most quintessentially Marvel 21st century or 2020s Marvel, where it's just they win with the power of friendship and then everybody gets along at the end. We've spent, 3 years with there being serious political tensions over just having a Krakoan embassy in New York. And then they just, hey, let's create an embassy to the waiting room from hell in New York too. Sure, we'll be totally fine with that. And then we're going to do it as a joke.
This is what another one of the responders said. This is more of an X-Men perspective. This is what Kitty Nunn says. Everyone's talking about the weird choice to bring back Ben and then make him a generic supervillain. But honestly, Madeline Pryor is the worst served here. Fresh off her wonderful redemption arc in New Mutants, she randomly decides to invade New York as a wildly inefficient way of getting what she wants. But then it turns out she didn't bother just asking for it first, and she's given what she wants and everything is fine now. And then Ben and Janine go instantly from family to ditch, making their ostensibly villainous complaints about being abandoned the moment she got what she wanted seem honestly quite fair and reasonable. Even Maddie's big moment where she retakes control of the demons is sold so poorly by both Wells and Kubert that it comes off as demons just going, okay, if you're going to vaguely threaten us, we'll surrender. And that's what Dark Web is in a nutshell. Things just happen because the plot demands them. Characters just do the next obligatory thing regardless of whether it makes sense to them or not.
At no point in this does it feel like there's any actual emotional stakes. It is just going through the motions of whatever the next plot point is for the sake of doing it. This is an event with absolutely no heart.
And they don't care. The readers can tell. And you know what? There are only 3 readers that even commented on this issue. This is the finale. And let's not forget that one, Doc. On the cover, it says Dark Web Finale #1. And then on the inside, it's Dark Web Dawn #1. So they didn't even know what to call the damn thing. They couldn't even figure out what the fucking comic book was. And we get here and no one cares. No one cares about any of this stuff. What is Marvel Comics going to do?
They need to start hiring people that give a shit. Editors that give a shit. Writers that give a shit. Artists that give a shit. And that are able to convey the fact that they give a shit on the page. Because what this is telling me is just give me $4 and I'm going to tell you the next plot point. That's it. Going back to even the prelude to Dark Web, they had this recurring theme of like the seasons passing with like spring, summer, autumn, fall, winter, spring. And at no point did that theme actually play any role in the story except for just to make it be like, okay, and this is a period of time later. That's it. Nothing here had any cohesion, any sort of sensibility, and nobody gave a damn.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. And, I see more of this in the future. We're not far into 2023, and it doesn't look good. We're already under like 3 events, but that's Marvel Comics for you.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're going with Sins of Sinister right now, that once again missed the boat and is just going from plot point to plot point to plot point instead of telling us these great stories that they hint at over 4 pages. They could have been telling us those stories for the last 3 years. We should be done with the Avengers X-Men war, building into whatever they're doing in Sins of Sinister, but no. And it's the same amount of give a shit. They don't care enough to actually show us the story. They just want to move to the next plot point and then us give us their money and us fuck off and go away.
I know you're going to be surprised to hear this, but I kind of predicted that Marvel Comics 2023 event slate was not going to be very good. In fact, I said it was downright frustrating that they just cannot stop just doing event. In fact, we had 3 events going on at the same time, and that is not abnormal for Marvel Comics. That should be something that never, ever happens, and it's going to happen multiple times this year. This thing was an entire waste of money, time. I feel bad for everyone associated with Marvel Comics in the past and the wonderful tradition that they have, and I certainly feel bad for the people that wasted their money on this. Definitely check this video out. There's also a link in the video description.